everybody. My name is Ganz-Schmitt, and I'm dressed like an astronaut today because I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Planet Kindergarten, which I see some of you already have out there. So every great mission needs a mission checklist. So here's what we're going to talk about today. Why I'm dressed like an astronaut. We already did that, so check. What I do when I'm not pretending to be an astronaut. How I got the idea for Planet Kindergarten. Who is Dylan, and is he an astronaut? What does Shane Prigmore know about astronauts in space? And finally, I'm going to read to you Planet Kindergarten. And you'll be the first group of kids that have heard this. Okay, one of the things that I do when I'm not pretending to be an astronaut is I produce musical theater. That means I help put on plays, like the one that you see up there. And that is Peter Pan. And I've also produced Little Mermaid. Maybe some of you have seen Seussical. And we have kids from kindergarten to 6th grade in our plays. I'm also a philanthropist, and that means I like to help people in need. And our family started an orphanage in Haiti to help kids to make sure that they have a home to live in, a good education, and the medicine that they need to be happy. And you can see these kids are really happy. And my favorite job is being a mom. And these are my daughters, Jensen and India. You could wave to them over there. I brought them to my work with me today. And we like to have tea parties. You can see we're having a tea party right here. And these are two other books that I wrote called Even Superheroes Get Diabetes and The Princess and the Peanut. So I like writing books that help kids. And The Princess and the Peanut is for kids with food allergies. Do any of you have food allergies here? You do? Oh, okay. I wrote this book to help kids like you so other kids could understand your food allergies. Okay, and that means that because I write books, that means I'm an author. So I'm going to tell you how I got the story for Planet Kindergarten, and it started a long, long time ago. And that's me when I was in kindergarten. And something that I loved to do was dictate stories. That means I used to sit down at a table with the parent, and they would type up the stories I would tell them, and I would illustrate them. So these are some of my first stories that I ever wrote. And when I was in kindergarten, something really exciting happened. It was exciting for our family. It was exciting for all of America. And it was that the first men landed on the moon in a spaceship called the Apollo 11. And that kind of inspired one of my first space stories. And here it is. I'll read it to you. My father and my brother are going on a rocket. The end. That was it. But great stories can just start with one line like that. Then a few light years later, my daughter Jensen started kindergarten. And when I was there, I was noticing the kids. That's her on her first day of school. And that's her kindergarten classroom. But as I looked around, I noticed that a lot of kids were happy and excited to go to kindergarten. But there was one little boy named Dylan, and he looked pretty nervous. And there he is. And I invited him to tell you in his own words what kindergarten was like for him.
Hi, my name is Dylan Williams, and I'm not an astronaut, much as I wish I were, but I do play one on YouTube. On my first day of kindergarten, I remember feeling really nervous. But I took some deep breaths, looked around at my crew, my mom, my dad, and some friends from preschool, and I marched right into that classroom anyway. Turns out my teacher was really nice, and she knew how to help when I was homesick, which happened quite a lot. It turns out kindergarten was actually a pretty great adventure. And that day I also met my very best friend, Augie, who is still my friend today, which adds up to 8 or 9 years of an awesome friendship. And that friendship has really taught me that when you have a good friend, no journey is too big.
So a few years later, before I completely had the idea for the book, we went to NASA, and that's where they launch rockets into space. And we were there with Dylan, and he dressed up like an astronaut. And that gave me a great idea, I thought, for a book called Planet Kindergarten. But a picture book without pictures is sort of like the Earth without the sun, or Saturn without any rings, or other planets without Pluto. It's just missing something. So I needed someone who is really good at drawing pictures, because as you remember, I still Those are the pictures I drew, and I still draw like that. So I found this amazing artist with the help of my editor, Melissa Manlove at Chronicle Books. And his name is Shane Prigmore. And you might recognize some of these images that I'm about to show you. He worked on the Lego Movie, Coraline, Megamind, How to Train Your Dragon. And these are some of his characters that he's helped create. And when he was creating these images, he researched space. He looked into what spaceships were like and what types of spacesuits they wore, what colors you would see in space. And this part's really fun. These are his characters, and these characters were inspired from other great space characters like E.T. and R2-D2. So that's all about how I created Planet Kindergarten, and now I'd love to read it to you. The countdown started. Sorry, it'll be easier here. The countdown started. Dad and I checked the plans for my next big mission. My doctor gave me 2 thumbs up. Mom and I got lots of supplies. Today is liftoff. I suit up. Dad helps me with my gear. What if I'm not ready? What if we crash into a comet or get sucked into a black hole, or even worse, my lunch floats away? You're well prepared, said Dad. I'm ready to explore Planet Kindergarten. We arrive at the base camp, then orbit while we look for a place to dock. I'm assigned to my commander, my capsule, and my crewmates. Don't leave, I beg. Mom slips her photo into my pocket and squeezes my hand. I don't want her to worry, so I stand tall. Parents are sent back to their own planets. We're aliens from many galaxies on Planet Kindergarten. Our commander tells us our flight plan for the day. Mission Control calls in on the intercom. They welcome us on our journey. I try to get used to the new atmosphere, but it's not like home. For one thing, gravity works differently here. We have to try hard to stay in our seats, and our hands go up a lot. At recess, we test the conditions. Outside our capsule. A crewmate and I disagree over equipment. We have to sit in isolation, and I learned that isolation isn't any fun. My crewmate agrees, and I have a new friend. Back in the capsule, we run some experiments, write in our logs, and then capture images for our families. I wish they were here. At lunch, I find out that I love space food. My lunch doesn't float away, but our trash will, so we contain it. The commander says that space exploration makes you tired and you have to rest. I'm too excited to sleep, so I count the stars. In the quiet and the dark, I get really homesick. Is the room running out of oxygen? Abort mission, I think. You can't do this. Get out of here. I spot the escape hatch. Then I remember what they say at NASA. Failure is not an option. If failure isn't an option, that leaves only success. Rest time is over. I take a deep breath, and I get back to work. Before I know it, my mission is accomplished. My parents rush to greet me. Then it's splashdown. I'm back on my own home planet. Mom and Dad are proud. Me too, because they were brave to let me go. I love it here, but I'm already training to go back to Planet Kindergarten tomorrow. Mission accomplished. I think we went over everything we set out to do, and now it's time for book signing and space painting. Come get your faces space painted outside by stars, and I'd be happy to dedicate a new book to you. Thank you.